Good Friday morning to y'all. This is your man A&J, and we are here with the best of pro wrestling and sports talk, the best of sports and pro wrestling talk. Like I said, it doesn't matter which way you want to put that. It's just the best of that, and you can't get any better than what you get right here. So with that in mind, we're going to jump right into things. We actually, for the interest of time, have to do a mixed bag here, as it is about 5 after 7, and I got to be at work at 8. So let's see how we get this squeezed in. We're actually going to start here with the unfortunate news yesterday. Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks has been suspended due to PEDs, which he wound up apparently taking a painkiller that wound up being on the ban list. And I guess there was just a mistake in the name, and of course now he's having to serve a 25-game suspension for it, which really sucks because that's going to be a large chunk, if not the remainder of the NBA season. And really not good if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, because he's very, very vital piece to what you got going up there in Milwaukee, along with Dame and Giannis. And now, of course, you just brought in Kyle Kuzma, and there's another name I'm wanting to think about that's going to be helpful for them because of this. But either way, it's just a good thing they went and picked up Kuzma. I just find it wild that it came at the cost of letting go of Chris Middleton, but at the same time, Middleton wasn't staying healthy, so it actually works out, and now we're going to see how much so. It's not to the point to where they're actually good enough to where they can beat the likes of the Knicks, or even, I shouldn't say the Knicks, I meant the Celtics or the Cavaliers, but they'll probably be a bit more competitive because of this. And really, when it boils down to it, for as bad as things have been as far as NBA ratings and the way people have been feeling about watching the NBA right now, it's pretty tricky, I know. And I think that if nothing else, hopefully this playoff stretch will make things a little more interesting. You're going to see a lot more of the best of different teams, different players, and competition should go up. Hopefully that winds up changing, but really unfortunate news here. Best wishes to Bobby Portis Jr. on that. With that in mind, we're going to transition in the wrestling world. In TNA, unfortunately I didn't get to see this, but some big shit happened last night, and I think it was already expected, but we're going to talk about one of the bigger highlights, which was debuts. Well, a lot of debuts if we're being honest, but we're going to actually focus specifically right here on the debut of both Orlando and Primo Colon, the brothers of Carlito, and then of course the debut of Elijah, formerly known as Elias in WWE, who teamed up with Joe Hendry to go against the Colon brothers. Man, TNA's doing some really big shit right now. I gotta say, it's like, it makes me feel like I need to do better on a personal level, because I'm not keeping up as much on TNA as I should be. And it's like, for whatever reason, speaking of like people feeling the way that they do about the NBA, that's kind of what I felt about TNA, or at least Impact, for a long time before the rebrand. But little by little, they've been working their way back up to the level of prominence that they were supposed to be capable of back in 06, 07, when they first made it to the scene, debuting on Spike TV. You just gotta love this for the right reasons. I mean, it's just incredible to see. I think Elijah's going to do some really big things with TNA. Really interesting to see the Colon brothers, especially when you think about acts like the Hardys and others that are former WWE talents that aren't there anymore. But again, with this working relationship, you already got the Hardys back in a WWE ring as of next week in Cincinnati for NXT, when they take on, I believe it's the No Quarters Kretsch crew. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say about that? It's just going to be really, really amazing to see when we get to that point. But wow, just TNA, man. What more can you say about it? Just TNA. Off to some amazing starts here in 2025, and it just doesn't get any better than that. Oh, and did I mention that Obafemi pulled up last night? Obafemi pulled up last night. Man, I'm going to catch that episode at some point. We're going to talk about that a lot more later. But for now, We're going to move on to some more unfortunate news. Of course, as a lot of you know in the basketball world, Victor Wembanyama is now out for the remainder of the season. It really, really sucks because we're talking about what easily has to be the brightest future that you could possibly have in all of sports, really just in general at all. I mean, not even the fact that he's 7'5" and can do all these incredibly ridiculous things at 7'5", but of course he's actually out for the remainder of the season because a blood clot was found in his shoulder, which I gotta tell you, I'm not an expert on blood clots, but I've come across meeting people that have dealt with that. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. I'm pretty sure that, you know, there are friends that I have. I'm not going to talk about them specifically because I'm not going to reveal that information about them or anything. But it's pretty nasty business, and if that ain't enough for you, just listen to Ernie Johnson, you know, when talking about it during NBA tip-off, game breaks, or any point that they had opportunities to talk about it. I mean, this is some life or death shit that we're talking about here. Wouldn't be an A&J video if I acted like I didn't know how to talk. But anyway, yeah, really unfortunate stuff, and all you can really do is, again, much like Barbie Portis, prayers and wishes go out to Wemby, along with a whole lot of others that have dealt with similar situations. You just hate to see these sort of things. They just traded for De'Aaron Fox, and again, bright future for the Spurs. It's just going to be derailed for the remainder of this season, but I imagine he's going to come back stronger and even better than before. But really sucks to see this as a thing. But something that doesn't suck is what we'll be getting tonight on SmackDown, and I'm actually looking pretty forward to it. We're getting The Rock back, y'all. The final boss is going to make his appearance tonight on SmackDown, and this was news that broke last night, and you kind of gotta wonder why. It's funny because it seemed as though The Rock was pulling himself out of any plans for WrestleMania 41, which is really, really interesting because he was easily a focal point, if not the focal point, in what has to be. Now I'm thinking about it real carefully. I don't think there's any storyline in pro wrestling right now that's any bigger between him and Cody Rhodes. And of course, apparently him and Cody squashed it back at the Netflix debut of Raw, which a lot of us are having questions about that, not to mention the fact that in that same vein, he was there for the Tribal Combat match where Roman Reigns defeated Solo Sikoa, and as Paul Heyman was about to bless Roman with the Ula Fala, Rock pulled up and was like, no, please allow me, because of course he's now a high chief, and obviously that's a great honor, and I guess that was just more about family at the time, which is great. I can't knock that, but you gotta wonder now, are we actually starting to turn the page in that storyline finally? I mean, what are we gonna wind up getting from The Rock tonight? It's just gonna be really, really interesting. I think we're all kind of on pins and needles in anticipation, where we're just looking forward to what we may or may not be getting. I just, man, I don't know any other way of looking at it, but it's about to be some wild shit tonight. I think it's just gonna be, man, I'm not quite doing this thing yet, but I know I will be later tonight. I just know that one way or another, there's no way that this isn't going to lead to stuff for WrestleMania 41 one way or another. Of course, it'll be interesting to see where Roman's involved. It's likely he'll have his match with Seth frickin' Rollins. The WWE title looks like it could be Cody versus, at least for me, it's going to be either Cody versus Cena, obviously, or Cody versus Punk, maybe even a triple threat. I'm leaning more towards Cody versus Punk. I feel like Cena's just way too easy to go with. I'm going to say the triple threat is going to be an outlier wild card, but an even wilder card than that, we probably have a fatal four-way final featuring the final boss. Fatal four-way featuring Final Boss. Talk about tongue twister. Say that how many times fast as you can. But anyway, that's where I'll leave it at that, because again, this was in the interest of time. This has been your mixed bag. So let me know what y'all think down below, and if you enjoyed, please, please, please like, share, subscribe down below. Really appreciate those that come through, especially just to check me out. So with that in mind, I want to say this has been your time with A&J, and I thank you for spending it with me.